I'm in a constant battle. This homesteader versus nature. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. I wanted to talk to you guys in this episode about homesteader versus nature. And nature can take all kinds of different characteristics. So let's talk about the first thing, and that's chickens. It seems like everything wants to eat a chicken, including me. I like a chicken dinner once in a while. But my chickens, this chicken coop has been under such inundation, it's ridiculous. I set my trail cams out, and this is some of the antics going on here at the chicken coop. We get visited by rats, by possums, by skunks, I forgot and left the chicken door open one night, and I had a rooster come up missing. Found him over here. Set up my trail cam over there and found out what was having a chicken dinner. Yep, this bandit himself, a raccoon. But then the raccoon was chased off or scared off by a fox and her babies, them two in the chicken yard. Now, I fortified my chicken coop. So long as I keep the door closed, the chickens are safe. But I leave the door open and I pay the price. Last week I had 3 roosters and 9 hens. This morning I have 1 rooster and 6 hens. So over a period of days I've lost 2 roosters and about 4 hens. Or 3 hens. One's broody, she's sitting on some eggs in there, so I have the potential of more eggs. Speaking of eggs, those rodents, the rats, the skunks, and the possums will go after the chicken eggs, and they'll eat all my eggs. They'll go after the duck eggs, they'll go after the goose eggs. It's just a constant battle with those creatures. And when it comes to skunks, they're also a predator on beehives. I've taken the steps of building a stand high enough to raise the bees high enough off the ground so a skunk can't get into them. What happens is the skunk will come up to the hive, stand on its hind legs, and with its little claw tap on the entrance of the beehive. The sentries will come out, and that skunk will take that bee and eat it. A skunk can eat a whole hive in one night, they say. So that's why my hives are protected right now. And I have to install some electric wire. I'll try to get that done today. If not, I'll get it done Monday or next week. But we haven't had a problem with bear yet. Electric wire is supposed to be effective against bear, so we're going to be installing that. I've had encounters with bear with my trail cam. But what the bear do is they break the hive open and then go in there and they're after the larva, the grub. That's where the protein is, and that's what they're after. So I've seen many YouTube videos where fields, hundreds of these, are just decimated by one bear. It's horrible. Now, a couple of years ago, Halloween night, unbeknownst to me, a tree had fallen on my fence line previous to that and caused a breach in my fence. A good, solid fence is one avenue in which a farmer can take action and protect his livestock. But when you have tall timber around and they do fall off, gotta walk your fence line once in a while. But that night, coyotes got in. They got into my turkey house. They found one little spot. They don't need much of a spot to get in. I have since fixed it, but they took both of my prized turkeys, had to start all over again. While they came in, they scared my goat, who jumped over a middle barrier and broke her leg, but I was able to do some animal husbandry and fix that leg, and she successfully had some babies, and now they're just out here sunning themselves in the back pasture. You notice behind my turkey pan there's a wild tom over there having a battle through the fence with my tom. Now, I mentioned predators from up above and down below. We had an owl come in and take a baby duckling one night. That was sad. I got to construct these breeding pens to keep the livestock and the waterfowl safe at night, especially when I'm allowing the pond to dry up. Again, I'm letting this pond dry up this year. I haven't put any water in it at all to get all this silt dug out of here and get the pond back down to a reasonable depth. Hopefully the depth that was when we first moved in. Now, the birds do use the pond as a sanctuary at night. They float right in the middle of the pond so nocturnal creatures can't get to them, and that's their safety zone. But with the pond drying up, they no longer have a safety zone. So that's why it's imperative of me to get my stock panels together in chicken wire and make some more fortified structures that I had before over at my other place. Yeah, they look just like this. They were very effective. We had nesting boxes in each area, and we had little pools for them to be able to bathe in and do whatever ducks and geese do in those ponds and those little pools. But we're going to cover it with netting, and we're going to keep all the creatures out so they can safely exist through the night, and the nocturnal creatures can't get to them. Also, during breeding season, I need those to keep them separate and also to keep them safe from predators, because again, the skunks, the possum, the rats, the squirrels, the ravens will go after eggs. It's horrible. I have to race to get an egg before a raven gets to it. So I'm out here early in the morning looking for eggs, and constantly looking for eggs while I'm out here. And that's why I set up incubators in the greenhouse. Another battle I have is with, well, birds and other little ghastly beasts. Here I have a grapevine growing up over this gate, but birds especially like to come down and eat my grapes. So what I did is I created some scarecrow features. This scarecrow happens to be a rubber snake that I perched on a branch, and that will keep at least the birds away from the grapes. And of course, birds love cherries. I have a cherry tree here that grows 5 different variety of cherries, but I rarely get a cherry off here because the birds, they just eat everything. So again, I put a snake on this little limb, and that's going to scare those birds away. Yeah, another version of a scarecrow. And hopefully I'll get to harvest my cherries this year and not the birds. I did put a snake over here on this grape also. You also can add snakes to any of your berry bushes, like grapes or raspberries. That'll keep them away. That'll keep the birds away. Now I'm constantly fighting creatures in the garden. Last year I lost a lot of vegetables to a squirrel and some mice. I don't know about rats. I'd come out here and I'd find little burrows in the soil of the raised beds, and oh man, I can't have rodents in my garden. So I adopted another scarecrow feature. I went on Amazon and I purchased this little owl. His head will turn as the wind blows it. And since I put him up, I don't know if it's him or my other scarecrow that's keeping these creatures out of the garden, because I have had no evidence or sign of any rodents in the garden this time. Another thing you can add to your garden is what I did at my other garden over at Acorn Acres, is I added rubber snakes. I just went down to the toy store and got some rubber snakes, and I put them around in my garden beds, and that seemed to be very effective also. Now I went Oregon style with my next scarecrow. A standard scarecrow just wasn't going to do it for me. I'm sorry, but I got a little bit eccentric here. And let me introduce you to Sam. Yep, Sam. We call him Sam Squatch. It's a Sasquatch costume I purchased on Amazon. I'll leave a link down below. I have him, the costume, over a mannequin I also purchased on Amazon. I'll leave that link down below. And then it's a posable articulating mannequin, so I can put a Sasquatch in different positions, and I can move him around the garden to keep variety going and keep the animals wandering. Now I know for a fact my goats and my ducks and my geese are terrified of him. So that'll keep everybody, and I notice my chickens are terrified of him too. So, because I dressed up in the costume and went out and see. I wanted to see how the livestock would interact, and boy, they were terrified. So it'll at least keep the chickens out of the garden during the daytime when I do let the chickens run free and do some free ranging. And and hopefully keep everything else out of the garden, like the deer. Every once in a while we get a deer that hurdles that fence to get into the garden, so hopefully I'll have better luck. Another aspect of nature that we're constantly battling against, especially seasonally, well actually all the time, it's extreme heat or extreme cold. I consulted Farmer's Almanac to find out when the last frost was, and it was supposed to be 4 days ago. So I moved some plants out into my garden 3 days ago, and last night we had a frost warning. So with my frost warning, I went ahead and took some milk cartons, cut the bottoms off of them, and put them over these cucumbers. And then the rest of the cucumbers, I put these 5-gallon buckets inverted over the top of them, and also cottage cheese containers, and made sure they were all covered. Do not recommend the milk cartons. So this is the evidence of milk cartons. This is what these cucumbers look like after a night in the frost with a milk carton over them. Now all my other cucumbers, some of them had the 5-gallon bucket, some of them had cottage cheese containers. Check them out. So I do not recommend a tent of a milk carton. It's just too thin, it's too small of a space. It'll freeze your plant. Yeah, the thicker walled cottage cheese container totally enclosed, and also the 5-gallon bucket inverted totally enclosed. That seemed to have done the job. Well, I'm your host, Jerry Hansen, explaining and demonstrating to you my methods of my battle against nature and everything that nature has to throw at me. I will fail, I will succeed. But it is a balancing act constantly on a homestead. So I hope I gave you guys some hints and tips and tricks to help with your battle against nature also when you're homesteading, farming, or even have an urban garden. I would suggest with the rubber snakes, if you're going to have them in your garden, flag them. Put a little sign up there, a flag to note that this is a fake snake. Because chances are, if a real snake gets into the garden and you think it's a fake snake, you're going to get bit. Yeah, take that precaution, please. So stay tuned to more videos. You could do that by subscribing, then clicking that bell icon. That alerts you to new videos as I do upload them. Also, give us a thumbs up, liking the show. Click that share button. Sharing us on your social media platforms helps us out. Leave a comment. Please always be safe and always be kind. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.